Welcome to SOULutions, where men come out of the shadows to testify, giving tips in manhood, honor the codes of integrity, and give out real solutions for soul survival. Today, we have on the show a man who's unafraid to grow into his purpose, a man of completion, a goal-setting achieving man, a stand-up comedian, a co-host of Fresh Perspective Sports, a business owner, and a fellow Bethea Hall brethren. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Devone Standfield.
What's going on? What's going on, everybody, man? Good to be here. Shout out to you, Sheen. It's been a long time, man. It's been a long time,
man. But I'm happy you showed up for this and ready to drop them gems today.
Man, I'm happy for the invitation, man. It's not often that I get to break bread with one of my original brethren from the circle. If you recall, the circle.
The circle, yes, absolutely. Let's get this thing started.
Man.
What person did you meet or see that gave you the drive towards the man you are today? Who or what defined you?
The person, people that I met or saw that kind of defined me didn't necessarily stretch far away from home. I know a lot of times, we grow up with these aspirations to model ourselves and around our idols, so to speak. You know, like the Michael Jordans, the Martin Luther Kings, the Malcolm X's, the Muhammad Ali's, and things of that nature, just to keep it transparent in terms of representation for Black folk. But for me, I idolized my grandmother most early on in my life. And the reason why is because when I came to a realization that I actually wanted to go to college, because to be quite frank, for the first, I would say 14 years of my life, I didn't even think college was a possibility, you know. And looking back on that time, I was spending a lot of time with my grandmother. She was she had me in church. She had me volunteering on voters' drives and different things of that nature. She had me in different organizations outside from what my mom had me in. But when I started I had to do a U.S. civilization project or a civics project in which we had to interview somebody in our family, and I chose to interview my grandmother, and I found out that she didn't graduate, like she barely graduated high school, but she ended up with an honorary degree at Cornell University. She was the president of her local CSEA union, and she eventually became a representative for the 1992 Electoral Congress that elected President Bill Clinton. She got a chance to meet him. She got a personalized letter sent to him, and those things during that interview, those things kind of hit home for me. And so while I spent most of the time growing up idolizing a lot of people, from a sports aspect and from a creative aspect, because that's how I grew up, and that's what I am at my heart. My soul discipline and my drive really comes from her, because she's a living representation that you don't need what the status quo is in order to be successful in life.
That's interesting you said that. I think a lot of people need to take that and run with it. We need to interview our parents and our grandparents, because we don't know their stories. Even if you are estranged from your parents or your grandparents, or you love them and they're close by, they have a story. They went through things that you possibly went through already. I encourage everybody out there to go and interview your parents or your guardian or your grandparents and hear their life story. You might be surprised and might get closer with them. Let me ask you this, Mr. Stanfield. What gems did your grandmother leave you that you can remember today to let us know?
Wow. Man, you put me on blast right now. So my grandmother really gave me three solid gems that I kind of live by today. The first one is something I disobeyed and I regretted it, and that was never marry anybody that's not first your best friend. As you already know, I'm working on my second marriage, and I love this platform because we talk about the good and the bad, right? Yeah. And one thing I can point out is my first marriage. For a long time, I was in denial about who was at fault in my first marriage. I found myself blaming my counterpart because things didn't go right, and she had her faults, and she was She just had her faults. I'm not here to slam anybody or throw anybody under the bus, but um, I didn't take it. It was about 3 or 4 years later that I took the time to do self-reflection and evaluate my contribution to why things fail. And when I did that, I came to the conclusion that ultimately the root cause of the matter was two things. Number one, my own insecurities and communication issues. And the second thing was because she and I were never friends before we got married. And I found that communication is a lot easier when you are actually friends with somebody, especially best friends. And that it was at that time, going through counseling, that I understood that why my grandmother embedded that principle. There's a reason why my grandmother and my grandfather have been together for 68 years. So and they don't always have good and bad days. And that goes not just to romantic relationships, but just to relationships as a whole. So that's the first thing that she embedded in me. The second thing that she embedded in me, which I talked about earlier, is you don't need to be like everybody else. The status quo does not have to define how you persevere and move throughout life. Um, I think oftentimes we have this American dream embedded philosophy on life in terms of especially as Americans, you want to come here to the land of the free and go to college and get a job and live the American dream. But the thing is, nobody's dreams is ever the same. Everybody has dreams. Everybody has different dreams. Everybody has different nightmares. And the thing is, you have to find out what dreams are going to work for you, and you have to push to do the best things the best within you to get the most out of it that you can, because at the end of the day, you're the only one that has to live with the decisions that you make.
Right.
When you die, you're gonna look back over your life probably before that you close your eyes for the last time and wonder the what ifs. But if you do you, if you find the inner you that is most important, you don't necessarily you won't necessarily have any regrets. And I've matriculated, as we like to say in the education world, I've matriculated to that point where I found my voice. I found out where I belong, and I'm content with who I am and where I am and what I'm working towards. And then the last thing that she embedded in me is no matter how much you know, you can always learn some more. Don't ever think that you aren't capable of learning. Don't ever think that anybody isn't capable of teaching you something, and don't ever think that you are so beholden upon knowledge and information that you don't need to reverence God.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You talk about maximizing your potential. Dr. Miles Monroe, who is a preacher who is no longer here with us, talks about maximizing your potential. And
Absolutely.
he talks about so many things that I love to hear when he speaks. He says when a person dies, it's the equivalent of a forest being burnt to the ground. So
Facts.
how many roots and seeds have you planted on your way through life so your forest can flourish?
Uh, I would like to say that that's a work in progress.
Absolutely.
Um, and I would like to say that those seeds and branches that have been planted stretch all the way back previous to even our days of meeting each other.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of times people take the metaphor that you just spoke to in terms of planting those seeds as as in a one dimensional way, like teaching kids how to like the things that you went through and how to avoid certain things, and that is definitely something that we should be doing, and something that is a method of planting seeds. But I think that any mental, physical, or spiritual transfer is a form of planting seeds. And so like the way you carry yourself is planting a seed. The way your level of authenticity is planting a seed. And a lot of times we talk about this all the time, right, Shane? You never know who's looking at you. So it's important that you are always your authentic self, because you don't know who you're blessing with just your walk. Even when you're not trying to implant anything into someone, just your walk might be blessing somebody. Just your walk might be giving somebody what they need. And so, like I said, that those seeds that my grandmother implanted in me by really just being herself are the same roots that I try to regurgitate in my daily walk, regardless as to how people feel about who I am and what I am. I need to be satisfied with the person I look in the mirror with.
We all are a work in progress.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you a question. Do you have a vision board?
Yeah. I've had a vision board for the last 3 years. Absolutely.
Now, if you can give us an apex that you have on your vision board and also an apex that you already achieved, what would those two things be?
The apex that I've already achieved is starting a business and revolving my business around the same principles that I've built and developed my family with, which is, keeping God first, making family second, and then maintaining a high level of integrity and authenticity in every effort, and keeping excellence and execution first. So
and what is on your vision board that you haven't obtained that's an apex for you?
Reaching that $1 million mark. So with a vision board, a lot of times we put the visions up there on the vision board, but the piece that we miss on the vision board is the roadmap. And so I've gotten into the habit of creating a multi-layer vision board of the things that I want to accomplish, and then the pages that are up under that are the roadmap to get to each goal. A lot of times people will tell you need to see the end before you see the beginning, but what they don't tell you is that the journey along the way a lot of times is overstepped and underappreciated. And so I would like to express the importance of making sure people try to develop their roadmap around that vision board, because the journey is really is to your point earlier, is really the seeds that you're going to plant sometime along the way throughout the rest of your life.
How early did you start goal setting? Let's take it back a little bit. Let's go back when you had a young Mr. Stansfield. Your grandmother encouraged you to go to college, but we all started somewhere goal setting. How early did you start goal setting?
Probably about 10 years ago.
That's very honest. I like that.
Yeah. So I've been with my wife since January 14th of 2011. In terms of relationship wise, before meeting my wife, I was never a planner. So goal setting was never even an objective for me. It was never even on my radar. But then when I met her, and I began to see how she operated, and she began to push me to do different things, I understood the importance of goal setting. And what I mean by that is, she had a tendency of writing everything down. If she had an aspiration, she wrote it down. For two reasons. Number one, she has a horrible memory. That's first and foremost.
My man.
which is 10 times as bad now because she's pregnant. So she got the pregnancy memory, which is like horrible, and then she blames it on the baby. Listen, we don't have to go. We don't have to go
there. Let's continue.
Right. You already been there, so I know you know where that is coming from. But the second reason why that she wrote everything down is because she liked things to be tangible. She's a visual learner, and she likes things to be on hand, on paper. And what I never realized until I met her, I knew I was a visual learner, but in terms of goal setting, I never realized how easily I'm able to maintain focus when it's tangible. And so when I began to tell her, I began to confide in her the things that I wanted to do in my life, because to be quite honest with you, I never even thought that I was going to make it to college at one point. So now that I was here and I had arrived and I graduated and I was on the dean's list and this, that, and third, and to be clear, I only went to college and graduated on the dean's list to prove my grandfather wrong. My grandfather told me that I was going to be another thug on the street like a lot of my friends. And I took that as a high level of disrespect. And it's one thing that I never liked. I never liked somebody to tell me no or that I couldn't do anything. And so, but once I reached that goal and I accomplished that goal, which wasn't really a goal, it was really about proving somebody wrong, I didn't have anywhere to go from there. So it was just about getting a bag and doing things that my parents and them had never done, because I was the first one to graduate college in my family, in my direct lineage. So fast forward to meeting my wife, when I told her the things that I wanted to do, she used to start asking me, well, how do you plan on getting there? Like, what do you plan on doing along the way? What things are you going to do to make sure these things happen? And I never knew. Real talk. I never had an idea. I was just like, I'm gonna get it done. And so she was like, well, I'm not gonna tell you what to do because you're your own man, and I'm not. And she never tried to force it on me, but she was like, maybe if you just wrote things down, it would make it easier for you to accomplish those goals, because you have milestones that you're fighting for and striving to. And so for the first 2 or 3 years, it was a struggle. It was a big struggle because I had never done it before. But I think in 2014, when we moved back to Atlanta, I began to put my head down because I hated being in Atlanta. I never wanted to come back. But I said, if I'm going to be here, I'm going to be here for a specific purpose to get certain things done. So I wrote those things down. And for the first time in my life, I began to achieve with a purpose. I began to walk with a purpose and achieve with a purpose. And that's when things really started to change for me. So that's...
Dr. Miles Monroe, not to bring him back up again, but this is where this interview is like in this energy. He said, I'm inclined to agree with him. He said, women are incubators. Whatever you give them, they take, they manifest it and give it back to you better. He used a man's seed when it came to, procreation. He used that, and he gives you back a baby. That you give her an idea, she gives you back an entire roadmap. And what she did was she took your aspirations and gave it back to you, developed for you to take and run with. And she dropped gems on you.
Facts.
Along the way of your goals, what did you sacrifice?
Myself, my ego.
Please, tell me, explain.
Shane, you know me, man. Can we curse on this platform?
Speak freely, brother. Speak freely.
I'm an asshole, dude. I mean, in my heart of hearts, and I'm a victim of my environment. So I have a tendency to be an asshole. And I'll do and I would do or say whatever it took to basically get what I want or get in my way. And that, like, lie, steal. I mean, well, not steal. I've never been a thief. That's not me. Thief. But yeah, I've never done that. But lie, and manipulate. Yeah, absolutely. That was me. But in the journey, like I've been a fuck nigga before.
Yeah.
I've done fuck nigga things. Like, I've broken codes before. And again, like, going back to like my wife and the circle, like things changed for me drastically, especially like when I came back to state in 2003. Like, from that time to the time that my dad passed, to graduating college, to fast forward going through the divorce and getting to my wife, there were along that journey, things were broken. Like, I was broken.
Well, let's stop right there. Talk to me about your lowest moment, and not the fact that we're going to talk about it. I want to know how you got up. This is for everyone who's listening right now, who might be going through the same thing you went through. Talk to me about your lowest moment and how you got up.
So my lowest moment was it happened twice. So I know when it happened was because I've only been depressed, like chronically depressed in my life twice. When my dad died and when I was going through the divorce. You were around when my pops passed. It was '04, October '04. The I wasn't playing football anymore. I was back at state. The cheerleading thing was popping. The hose was everywhere. Cats, and you know how it was, man. Cats thought that all cheerleaders was gay, so we had clear reign to the women. we had easy picking at the women, especially at the cheerleading camps, because all the guys thought, all the football players and stuff thought we was gay. They didn't know I was a former football player, or whatever, played basketball and this, that, and the third. But that's neither here nor there. So in '04 when like everything was great, and then it all came crashing down because I had just repaired the relationship with my pops, and then out of nowhere he died while we was on a trip in Indianapolis for the Coca-Cola Classic, and and I was scheduled to graduate that year, and everything changed. My world was turned upside down because for the first time, because my dad didn't come to my high school graduation. My dad used to be addicted to coke. My dad used to he just wasn't a very consistent person, and so like that took me to a place that I had never been before, because even when I had to deal with that, losing a parent, I didn't feel like I had the support from my significant other at the time, and so I went to a dark place. I became somebody that I really wasn't. Like before that, I had some type of integrity. I stood on my word, this, that, but at that point, I really didn't care about anything else. I was very selfish. I just wasn't that dude anymore. And so to your point, what changed in that moment was I stopped pushing everyone away. I can remember it like it was yesterday. I was in New York during Thanksgiving, and it was after my dad passed away, and I was like really doing some messed up stuff. And I was in New York, and it hit me out of nowhere that this was the first Thanksgiving that I was ever gonna have to be at without my pops. And I didn't have an opportunity to kind of right every wrong. Although we repaired our relationship, I didn't have an opportunity to right every wrong. And a flurry of regrets flew over me. And the first person I called, it wasn't my mom. Ironically, it wasn't my grandma, because they don't necessarily know they don't understand how I feel. I called Big Game James, my best friend. And he kind of walked me off a ledge. And like, this kind of goes back to the circle thing. Family is not defined by blood. And I know you hear it, it's cliche, you hear it all the time, but I mean, like, I can't count on two hands how many times James has walked me off a ledge. James has been my conscience. And other people in our circle, from Morris to Omar Ruffin to cats that that I've developed relationships with after the fact. But I think that climbing out of a bad hole, requires you to let go of who you think you are in that moment, and allow some people to begin to not only help you to repair, but also allowing them to hold you accountable where you are. Like, they can meet you where you are and hold you accountable. Like, James had no reservations in saying, "Yo, dog, you fucking up." Like you out here. Like, that's
Game James.
This ain't you. Like we like to have fun, but yo, you a grown man now. Like, leave that childish shit alone. you know, and like that's so important because when you got yes men in your circle, you can fall as far as they'll let you fall, bro, if you're not really, if you in a bad place. But when you got people that really have a genuine care for your well-being, when you in your worst spot, and this goes for your wife, your family, your best friends, when you're in your worst spot, people don't mind these people don't mind sacrificing where they currently are to make sure that you don't fall out of a well-being place. And I said all that to say this: I didn't pull myself out of that journey. My village pulled me out of that journey. So, and it goes back to my divorce as well. I don't need to go as deep into that because it's very similar. But again, my village pulled me out of that. Shout out to Stephen Morrison, Danae Scott, and my mom and my grandmother and Big Game James and my wife. That those things meant a lot to me.
The biggest thing you said to me, it was that you allowing people to make the changes that's needed around you. Some people have to feel that rock bottomness to allow people to come in and make the manufacturing changes to change your whole manuscript or how you operate. And letting go ego is a terrifying thing because it's a point where you don't feel like you know yourself. You're going back to factory. You're starting all over, putting your entire motor, engine, transmission, everything together and coming out new. You don't know how you're going to drive. You don't know if your wheel alignment is going to be good. But the people around you help and build you up and put the paint job on you and take care of you. That's what family is all about.
Facts.
Talk to me about fatherhood and mentorship. But I don't want to talk about the good stuff. I want to talk about the moments where you love your kids, but I really don't like you right now. When you say to your kid, what are you doing? Talk to me about the patience you need to have as a father. The patience.
It's so ironic that you asking me this question right now because I just got a piece of great news about a new family member that we'll be welcoming in sometime soon. But I'm not going. It's not my place to put people business in the street. So shout out to my fam. So I have a special needs son. My son's autistic. And the bad thing about having a special needs kid that is moderately self-sufficient, when you're co-parenting with a person that you don't necessarily see eye to eye with, they tend to have a lot of your good traits, but a myriad of your bad traits. What I have found about my son through the years is that he's an asshole because I'm an asshole. And because he's autistic, because he's mildly autistic, if you know anything about autism, like that individuals that are autistic don't always understand sarcasm, and they don't understand like couth and restraint. So I will be like, I'll cook my son breakfast and I'll ask him, yo, is the food good? And he'll be like, it's all right. It ain't mommy's. And I'll be like, you know what? I'm about to smack the dog shit out of you. Or we'll go to we'll fly to Orlando to go to Disney World because I got a cousin that pulls the plug and things of that nature. And we'll be out there and we'll be having a good time, and then he'll be like, I'll be like, hey, you having a great time? He's like, yeah, I'm having a really good time, but it'd be better if mommy was here. I'm like, you son of a bitch.
wait a minute.
Yo, I did this. You feel me? Like, so it's.
But you can't get mad at his aspirations. Now,
No, not at all.
in his picture, he's like, it'd be better if the entire family was here. Like you said, he has no
Yeah,
coof, but sometimes having no coof is a good therapeutic thing for the person,
it is. So,
right? And
so
I
case in
and I
point.
and I find it compelling, and I find it it's funny to me. And I know you don't find it funny, but I think it's a good thing.
It's definitely a good thing. I mean, case in point. My son was with my wife earlier in the year, and my wife was telling him, she was like, DJ, you really need to eat more vegetables and work out a little bit more so you can lose weight. And his reply was, why? Daddy ain't losing weight. And I wasn't even there, G. Yo, why is my name even being brought up? and then he goes further and says, Uncle James, Big Game James, need to lose weight too. And I was like, this is going left, yo. This is going all the way left.
But it sounds like truth.
No, it's facts. It's facts. It's definitely facts. Yo, Sheem, I know we haven't seen each other in a minute. I'm 40 pounds overweight, bro. I've never been over 215 in my life until now. I'm at 251 right now. And I know I carry it good, but my son has a point. I didn't need to hear it like that, but
I think it's out of love, though. I respect it because I've worked with autism kids, right, for many years.
Right.
And something about getting that honesty that you don't get from regular people, I find it comforting. Even though it's blunt. It's real and it's the truth. And you can trust it because you know it comes from a real place.
Yeah. Yeah, it's harsh. It's harsh, but
it's harsh.
But you don't question it because it's authentic. It's they don't know anything else but to be their authentic selves, and that's there's a hidden beauty in that. Absolutely, 100%.
Right,
100%.
How do I approach a man I have problems with, like establishing the value?
By listening.
Like break it down. Now you have a problem with a gentleman, and both of you know that you have a problem. Like when, how, establishing value.
Yeah. So we just talked about ego, right?
Yep.
So
absolutely.
a lot of times when two men, especially, not necessarily women, their dynamics are a little different. But when two men have an issue, a lot of times there's a lot of ego involved. And so when ego is involved, when ego is involved, you forego communication. So the best way to resolve a communication gap via ego is to shut up and let the other person vent. Let the other person tell you what's wrong. Because a lot of times what you will find is the issues between two men are so minor and minuscule that it can be resolved with a simple, my bad, I'm sorry, I didn't intend it like that. Those were not my intentions. That a lot of times, because men historically and generationally are not great communicators, there's a lot to be misconstrued during random conversation or random actions. And so what I've found is when I've had issues, especially when I have issues with my friends, if I really want to resolve the issue, because sometimes I don't really want to resolve the issue, I just want to hear myself talk, if I'm being honest. But when I really want to resolve the issue, the first thing that I do is I invite that person to tell me where I have overstepped my boundaries. And then I take the same approach with them that I do in my marriage, which is to take a step back and look at things from their point of view and see what my contribution is. And in the actions of seeing what my contribution is, I am able to find places of empathy where I can understand where they're coming from. I can understand why they feel that way, and we can find a middle ground where we can have where we can meet at a place where we can be cordial. um I've also come to the realization that everybody ain't gonna be your friend. We ain't gonna be able to befriend everybody, but we can always be at a place where we can be cordial. You don't necessarily have to respect me, but don't disrespect me, like Bernie Mac used to say.
Like I recently seen Jay Prince say, "I don't want to be his friend, but I don't also don't want to be his enemy." There's just
Facts.
there's a gray area there.
Shout out to Jay Prince and the
You,
Griselda crew.
you said that men have problems with communication historically. My next question to you is, should there be a basic training program against men, a level of education like skill traits and attributes taught in the community outside of the schooling system? And what I mean by that is, we lived in a neighborhood together. All of us should know how to change a tire. All of us should have financial, know how to do financial. All of us should be writing stuff down. Like the keys, the basic keys to functioning outside of this world, not wandering in the dark with a flashlight. Should we have something implemented in the Black community for us men?
Um, that's a tough one, Sheen, because a lot of people don't live in an environment where time is afforded for that. And I think what you're talking about in its most simplest form is we should implement parenting, or we should implement villages. We should implement mentors and father figures. And the fact of the matter is, those things should already be present in most communities. There shouldn't necessarily need to be an implementation. But the reality of the matter is, things like like high level technology and even COVID and things of that nature have desensitized and desocialized our communities, that and in an era where we were already suffering because of single family households and parents who have to work 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet. Those things are those things are ultimately necessary, but the ability to provide those things on a regular basis without a significant contribution from our government, who is trying to distance itself from socialization, is far-fetched. And so what I will say is this: instead of a need for implementation, we should there should be a movement to revisit our grassroots. And what I mean by that is, we allow the government, and I'm just specifically speaking about the Black community, we allow the government to tear down our villages. It's time to rebuild them. If we rebuilt our villages, the gaps between the bare essentials for life survival, manifestation, and common respect would not be as heavily in despair as it is currently, in my opinion.
A fellow guest by the name of Malik Mooney said those things are already in place. We just need to uproot them. There's churches, there's community centers, there's boys and girls clubs. Have they dropped the ball in those regards? I don't need you to answer that question, but just thinking about how they underdeveloped us over the years of certain things. The reason I asked that question, could I speak from my own personal experience when I say I didn't know how to change a tire till I was 20 years old, because my environment did not call for me to change a tire, because I didn't need a car living in New York. But there's so many cars in New York. There's some certain survival skills and tactics that I feel should be the basis of how we operate. Let's go a little deeper. Let's talk legacy. We always talk about leaving a legacy, but we ignore major steps. Do you have a will?
Yeah, I've had a will since I have had a will in place since my sophomore year in college. Since I was sideshow marketing prepaid legal. As a business owner in prepaid legal, they give you a will for free. So I took full advantage of that, and I've kept that thing up. But yeah, I definitely have a will, but I know that I know that over I think over 63% of Americans over the age of 50 don't have a will. I think that's the current statistic, as I talked about it on TLDT. Um, and I think that the percentage is astronomically higher for men. I think it's like 81% of men over the age of 50 don't currently have a will. And they think and the sad thing is they think that you need a lawyer to get a will. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. You just need a notary, and you need to you can go online or go to Office Max or FedEx and pick up the will paperwork and just fill it out, and then get a notary to sign it, and then submit it. That's it.
That's it.
That's just really it. That's really it.
Well, we
And you can
need you to
submit it to
repeat those
anybody.
steps one more time, sir. 'Cause so many people don't know that's simple as that is.
It's simple. Just you can go online and do an online will. Matter of fact, for those of you for those of you listening, you can go to Rocket Lawyer right now, pay a $34 fee. And with that $34 fee, you can get a will made up, signed and dated by not only a notary, but an authorized lawyer. And you can keep that in your archives for whenever you decide to leave this earth. And it's just that simple. It's literally not rocket science at all. I got mine for free, but it wasn't really for free because I was paying a $50 monthly fee to market the business. But the fact of the matter is, there's so many people within each and every community across this earth that died without a will, and the government or some other body that was unbeknownst to them or foreign to their naturalized wishes, embarking upon their estates and their finances, that it's a travesty that people have not advanced towards having a will. So I definitely relish on this type of conversation.
How important is it to leave where you're from to develop yourself? Sort of like rebranding.
Mm, you're asking me this now.
I'm asking you.
I think it's astronomically important. But I don't think it's important for everybody. Some people are able to become their best selves without exploring anything. For me, because of my environment and my circumstances growing up, I wouldn't say I never, but it was hard for me to envision certain things being possible until I got out of my comfort zone. I don't think that that's necessarily restricted to geography. I think that your comfort zone can be watching History and Discovery Channel as opposed to watching sports every day. Using your imagination can be a form of getting out of your comfort zone and getting out of your natural geography, your natural environment. But however you need to do it, it's important that for me, in my opinion, in order to achieve true growth, it's important to get outside of the nest that your parents or your guardians created for you. Metaphorically speaking, birds don't fly until they leave the nest, and that's a literal metaphor that you can cross relate to what we're talking about right now. And so I had a conversation with a friend of mine that goes to a church that consistently speaks about prosperity, and I tried to tell that individual, I said, you can't. I said, I love the message that this individual is speaking. Because I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus and put nobody out there. I love the message that this guy is putting out there, that this minister is putting out there, and I think he's helping a lot of people. But that message is not transferable in certain areas of this world. You can't go into the middle of Ghana and preach the message of prosperity, because people haven't been prosperous in centuries. You can't go to certain areas and have that message. And that person didn't necessarily understand what I was talking about until they visited those areas. And I said, you have to take a different approach, but you won't know what the approach is. You won't know what you won't know how to evaluate your audience and evaluate your opportunities for growth without being able to live and experience another person's shoes that they literally have to walk in.
Absolutely. As a husband, would you rather have a great woman or a great wife?
I think great. I think I'd rather have a great woman.
Elaborate, please. There's no
Um,
wrong answer. Just how it's all tailored
I,
to how you feel.
I think a great woman actively works on being a great wife, but it doesn't necessarily reciprocate in the other direction. It's like the same saying, every reader is a leader, but every leader is not necessarily a reader. Does
Mm.
that does that make sense? Every leader is a reader, but every reader is not necessarily a leader. That's the connotation that that's the proper way to phrase it. I believe every great woman is and or strives to be a great wife, but every great wife is not necessarily a great woman. There's people, I know a lot of people who have very, very domesticated and obedient and submissive wives. But if the roof flew off, they wouldn't know how to hold the house down.
Mm.
One thing I can say with regard to this specific conversation about my wife is we've seen the lows of one another. And a great wife doesn't necessarily know how to build up an empire or rebuild an empire. They can rebuild their husband. They can be a great helpmeet, but they can't necessarily help to rebuild the empire. But a great woman that's striving to be a great wife can do both. So
Mm. What do you do when you're someone's preparation but not their destination? And what I mean by that is, we spoke earlier how you had to go through some things in order to achieve the greatness you are with the woman you are today. What does someone do when they're in the midst of someone else's preparation but not their destination?
you accept it for what it is. You take your ego out of the equation and you ask yourself, first of all, why am I here in the first place? Why did I end up here in the first place? And then the second thing is you you treat that situation like you do every other situation in life. You figure out what you learn from that situation, what you can take and continue on with that situation, and the things that you need to look for and dispel going forward. But what the one thing you never do is continue to harp on that situation and allow that situation to have any power over you, because the fact of the matter is that person, after that person moves on to get closer to their destination, they not thinking about you.
Well, let's go right there. Tell me, give some examples on how do you not harp? So many people say don't harp on it, but we got to give some solutions on how you don't harp.
You don't harp by taking time to heal. So a lot of times, especially with men, and this is myself included, when we get hurt by our counterparts, and I don't want to be restrictive by any gender bias or anything like that. So I'll just say this: as men, when we get hurt by our counterparts, the first thing that we do is jump in bed with somebody else to alleviate the pain from somewhere else. And to me, jumping in bed with somebody else or allowing somebody else to alleviate the pain that hasn't necessarily been actually healed is the equivalent to getting hurt in the game and getting a cortisone shot. Yeah, it's numb, but that injury is still there, bro. And eventually, it's gonna come back to haunt you, hurt you, and maybe inhabilitate you. And so what I've gotten in accustomed to doing, and my wife can kind of co-sign on this, because she came into the benefit of this. I take time to look at things from every other point of view. unlike when I was younger, I do not have a problem falling on my sword. If I sit back and go through a situation in my head and say I was wrong here, I do not have a problem going back and telling my wife, yeah, I cursed you out, but I was in the wrong. It happened this morning. I it happened. Yo, Sheen, it literally happened this morning. Me and my wife got into a knockout drag out because of the stress of this move this morning. And in the process of doing that, I'm on the phone with another man's worker slash I think his nephew. And I was like, yo, what's going on with the move? Are y'all supposed to be here tomorrow? And he was like, well, such and such said that you said that you were gonna get back to him and you never did. So he took another gig. And I was like, nah, I said I was gonna let him know what time. And he was like, okay, well, I'm gonna reach out to him. And as soon as I got on the phone, and this is mark of a great woman and a great wife, as soon as I got off the phone, my wife was like, you ain't say that. I'm not gonna cut you off. She didn't cut me off in the middle of having that conversation. She didn't make me look like a dumbass in the middle of the conversation. As soon as I got off the phone, she's like, you didn't say that. You told him you was gonna hit him up. The first thing I did this morning when he called me back was, my wife said you were right and I was wrong. I owe you an apology. That's the mark of growth, because this morning I was hot with my wife, but I still took the opportunity to uplift her for being the right person, even though we weren't necessarily on the same page in that moment. But she deserves that, regardless as to how I feel. And I said all that to say this: sometimes you got to take your feelings out of the situation and just look at the situation for what it is and say, this is my contribution. This is where that person was wrong. This is where I was wrong. I can only be responsible for where I was wrong. So I'm gonna own that. I'm gonna take time to heal from that, from this situation, and then I'm gonna move forward. And women have always historically, women have done a good job with that. They will take time to heal. They'll be like, I'm not dealing with no man right now. I'm just doing me. I'm figuring me out. And then when they get it together, they'll go back out there and they'll try it again. But men, like we historically just jump into some more whatever it is that your pleasure is posing at that time, and you don't necessarily get that healing, and then all of a sudden you blow up, or you carry that baggage into something else, and it goes catastrophically bad. So
Catastrophically bad is not the word. Men, take the time to heal, take the time to rebuild yourself, and it's okay to have less ego on the journey.
And don't feel bad if you need the people in your circle to help you rebuild yourself. A lot of times we're not doing this by ourselves, and you shouldn't have to. So
absolutely. Validation from your partner. It's like you win a championship when you meet the right woman. But Mr. Stanfield, do you defend the title? And what I mean by that is, are you still showing up the same way you were in 2014? Bringing flowers, working out, staying in shape, looking good, and competing with yourself to be the best version you can be. There's a world out there that probably hits on all of our women as soon as they walk out the door. That's another competitive thing. But I'm talking about defending the title within your home. Are you competing with her to look better than her when you have dates? Are you competing to make sure that you're getting up and eating the right foods? Are you competing to defend the title?
Oh, no, my wife's pregnant right now. I don't have to compete. I look better than her regardless. I'm skinnier than her. I'm winning right now.
Wow, this guy.
To the extent of my abilities, I am attempting to defend the title, but admittedly, I can do better. It's funny because every time we go somewhere, my wife would be like, yeah, he's having a baby and I'm having a baby because I got a little bit of gut now. I told you I was 251. I'm not really used to this. But as far as going to bat and trying to, and like I was never a flowers guy. She's not a huge flowers girl. I was never a Hallmark guy. she's not necessarily a Hallmark girl. So like the cars and stuff like that. Like she likes cars. She likes handwritten letters.
But you know what she likes. Are you defending the
Yeah.
title on the things she likes?
Yeah, absolutely. Like she loves to travel. She loves to see and try new things. She loves to laugh. I do all of that. I go hard at that. Now there are things that I lack on that I can do better in. But yeah, I make a conscious effort to strive to defend the title, so to speak, the best way that I see fit at the time. But she has no reservation whatsoever in letting me know, hey, you didn't open up my door today, you're fucking up.
Hey, don't forget to defend the title. It's very important.
Facts.
Because you won the chip don't mean you get to sit down. No, you got to get better.
Absolutely, because somebody's gunning for you.
Yeah.
Somebody's gunning for you in the next season.
Somebody's gunning for you, man. In every aspect. One more question, sir. I came up with something called operating at 100%. And what I mean by that is I took 5 affirmations during my day. And what I did is I took purpose, health, confidence, money, and knowledge. Now you can substitute any of those, but I gave them each 20%, adding up to 100% on a daily basis. And then I take that.
Give me those 5 again.
Purpose, health, confidence, money, and knowledge. Purpose being living in your purpose. Health is, eating right, working out. Confidence is having the confidence to do those things. Money, did you make a little money today? Did you pay the bills? And knowledge, did you take in some knowledge today? Did you learn new things to acquire in your life?
Okay.
Now, let me break it down for you. I take that 20% of each one and I put it in a 100% category for the day. Then I calculate myself and I wait about 6 days to say, hey, this week I operated at least 78%. That is no good towards my purpose. You want to operate with an A or better. My question to you is, if you had to take those things, those 5, purpose, health, confidence, money, and knowledge, in the last 24 hours, have you operated anywhere close to 100%?
I'm at about 91%.
Ooh.
Yeah, where I'm failing is health.
In terms of food and exercise?
Yes. In terms of food, specifically in terms of exercise, but food and exercise. I had McDonald's yesterday, man. I'm disrespecting myself. I normally don't really do that, but man, sometimes the Big Mac and the fish fillet be calling. But like, I live with a purpose, so I'm there. Confidence. I'm at about on the 20% scale. I'm at about 15%, because of my own insecurities. So I'm at about 15 to 18%, like day over day. Okay. But like as far as like money and you said purpose, health, confidence, money, and now, yeah, I'm at about 90%. I'm operating with an A right now for me. Just me being honest.
I take the things that come naturally easy for me and I lower those percentages and give harder percentage just to customize it for me, to make me think about, hey, you know what? You need to lose some weight. You need to eat better. So I'm going to give health 40%. And if you don't do those things, you're automatically going to get a D if you don't put in the work for health to raise your percentage.
Okay. Okay. So you're weighting the things that you don't. Okay. Yeah. So you're grading yourself.
That I'm not good at, because naturally we live in our purpose now. I'm in my purpose talking to you right now. So that's a given. But what is not a given is that I'm going to go out there and work out, eat right, and do the things, meditate, whatever you need to do the things to make sure that you're purifying yourself in the waters of Lake Minnetonka.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, grading myself on a curve, I'm at a C-.
Yeah. I think we both need to get up to A.
I'm with you. I'm operating in my purpose. The confidence is there. I'm definitely getting a better bag than I've ever gotten in my life. Uh, the drive is there. The knowledge base is incredible, just based off of what we're doing now, like with the podcast and everything like that. The knowledge that I've gathered over the last 2 years doing the podcast and just developing relationships and things of that nature has been outstanding. So yeah, the health thing is definitely, the health and well being is definitely a deterrent where I'm failing. And so C minus is probably, by your standards, C minus is probably being generous. One thing I would like to drive in there. I need
to be better as well. I have to do better, because health is the most important one.
Yeah, it is. It is oftentimes a determining factor on how long you actually here to be able to try to achieve those goals.
Right.
Another thing that I would throw in there is consistency.
You are absolutely right about that.
So,
I mean, you can throw in more. You can weight it. You can scale it. You can have 10 things in there, but consistency is a very big problem for many of us, including myself. I can get going with something, and then I kind of reach a point where, hey, I did that.
Yep. And then the drop off comes.
And we talking about, hey,
and then when it's trying to get back, you gotta worry about the procrastination.
I can eat right for a month and say, hey, you know what? I lost 5 pounds. Let me go ahead and enjoy these 5 buffets in a row.
I concur.
That's when the money and the knowledge start to hurt you a little bit. A little bit of money, you do certain things that outside your pay grade for your stomach.
Yeah, that's fact. That's facts.
That's fact. That's what that is.
That's fat facts.
Fat facts. Hashtag fat facts.
Hashtag fat facts.
Thank you, sir. You are now part of the Silhouette Boys Club. It is people like you who move in the shadows to help people like me shine. Now, today, what we like to do, we always like to get a referral from someone you know that would love to come on SOULutions and answer these questions and drop these gems. Do you have someone today that you can give us a referral?
Yeah, man. Well, let me ask you this: Have you talked to?
Not yet. Go ahead and drop his name.
No. I know you kind of around the way went to Big Game. That's not where I was going. I was going to ask you: Have you talked to Ahmed?
Ahmed Keen.
Yeah.
Yes, I have. Let me tell you. Yeah, we're gonna have him on the show. He's scheduled to be on soon.
Yo, let me tell you, the conversations that I have with Ak, and you know, us meeting him as a freshman.
Yeah.
It was like that's been one of the lasting relationships that I've had. Like that guy's a dope dude, man. He really is, man. And you talking about somebody who was authentic and genuinely trying to uplift his community. That dude's a great guy. Outside, if you already got Ahmed on the inventory, and I know you kind of roundabout way had conversations with James, maybe not directly, then I would encourage you to I would encourage you to hit up Benjamin Nakamura.
Benjamin Knock. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And make sure you hit him up and focus a lot of the question on his military experience, man, because that guy's got some great stories.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first, Mr. Devone Standfield. We're going to look for you to connect us. But first, please give us some shout outs, some information, things you're doing right now.
Man, shout out to my unborn son and my beautiful wife, Marquita Stanfield and Davis Lincoln Stanfield. Scheduled to be due on January 28th, but we don't like to keep schedules, so I don't know when he's going to actually come up. But we will not be Tiana Tailored around here.
Tiana, I still love you. Don't
shout out to T. Shout out to T. And shout out to Iman. Yo, Iman, I'm in Atlanta. Don't come whoop my ass, dude. That's just not. Yo, I don't want no problems. I don't want no smoke, B. Man, shout out to Big Game James. Shout out to my village, Pastor William Gillison Jr., Albert Gunther. Shout out to the illustrious South Carolina State University, the place that raised and made me, the University of Buffalo, the second home to your boy, man. Shout out to the Rough Buff New York State as a whole, but definitely Griselda, Rough Buff, man. And shout out to them Buffalo Bills and them Chicago Bears, both in the playoffs, looking to do big things, man. And shout out to my man Shane One and the homie, the sister Kara, man. I really appreciate the invite. I really appreciate the love, man. And I can't wait to see all the great things that you're doing.
Let us know where we can find you at social media, what you're doing right now in terms of the sports that you talk about.
Yeah, man. I am a member. I'm business development director at the Rise Up Family Network, which is an affiliate of the On Point Network, partners with Apple and Roku TV. I work on the IT side, on the graphic side, and on the web development side, as well as online personality, the host of Talk of the Town, TODT Live, also a online personality for Fresh Perspective Sports, both vlog podcasts that are both operating on YouTube and Facebook Live. TODT Live comes on Wednesday nights at 9:30. It will be returning next week. And Fresh Perspective comes on Thursday nights, which is tonight at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. And the shows are extra lit. So please feel free to tune in. Shout out to the Rise Up Network. Shout out to everybody that tunes in, man. Much love to y'all.
Man, we appreciate you, man. You have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Peace.